Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new org info session. My name is Lauren Piepenberg. I'm one of the graduate assistants in the Student Activities Center. I work primarily with student orgs, so getting them registered, as well as helping new orgs through the approval process. So what we're going to be covering today is we're going to go briefly over what a student org is and the different requirements, as well as the qualifications as a new org and returning orgs that register every year. There are certain requirements that you need to meet. So we'll touch on those and what that looks like, as well as what the new org process is going to look like. It'll be a little different than org returning orgs going through registration. And so what we'll need from you and different tips to help you through this process, what submitting a profile in OrgSync is going to look like, as well as we're going to go over the basic framework of what an organization needs, such as the Constitution, the different officer positions, as well as different tips on transitioning and recruitment. So student org overview. So there's three main things that we want to touch on, that orientation, our webpage, and OrgSync. So orientation is something that's going to be required for every organization that registers every year. So whether or not you're a new org or whether or not you're a returning org, at least one person, one current officer does have to complete our orientation. Orientation is completely online, and I'll show you how to access that in here in a second. But orientation, like I said, will need to be completed by one current officer every year that you are registering the organization. As a new org, though, we highly recommend that every current officer completes the orientation because there's a lot of really great information about event applications, risk management, as well as all of the amazing resources that are available to you as a registered org. So I'm going to actually take you to our student activities webpage to show you how to access that orientation. So to access the orientation as well as our student activities website, you're going to go to studentact.unt.edu/orgs. And that will take you to our student org homepage. So this is going to be a really great resource for you as a new org going through the process. And if you do get approved as a registered org, there's a lot of really great resources for you. So this is the homepage. As you can see, you can scroll down and search student organizations, as well as look at our events calendar for all of the events coming through our office, as well as any events being hosted by other organizations. So a really important tab for you is going to be this Manage Your Organization tab. So we have registration, events, risk management, advisors, and officers. So the first tab that we're going to walk through is registration. So student org registration, this is where you're going to go as a new org as well as returning org. So next year, if your org is approved, when you re-register your organization next school year, this will be an important tab for you. And so we're going to scroll down and we're going to go to new organization registration. So this is a page that just kind of briefly walks through the new student org approval process. So things that we'll need from you as well, such as how to access the approval request form, as well as different things you'll need to prepare for your approval process. And so to access the student org orientation online, you're going to head back to Manage Your Organization, Registration, and you're going to scroll down and actually click on Current Organization Registration. And then you'll scroll down to the bottom and you'll see this section's called Student Org Orientation. And it'll be this first bullet point that says access the orientation course in Canvas. Like I mentioned earlier, orientation is completely virtual and so can be completed at your own pace, at your own time. So something that we highly suggest as if you are still working on getting your different components together for the approval form, or you have submitted your approval form and you're waiting to meet with us, this is definitely something that's an easy thing to complete and finish on your own, because this will be a requirement to be registered. And again, like I said, it's only required that one current officer completes the orientation, but we highly recommend that all new officers complete the orientation because, like I said, there's a lot of really great valuable information in there. So another section that I want to show you is this advisors tab. So we'll talk a little bit later about the requirements of an advisor, but I wanted to show you down here, if you are currently looking for an advisor or maybe haven't solidified one yet, if you are searching for one, this bottom section is going to be really important and helpful for you and gives you some information about how to reach out to our office and how we can help assist you in that process of looking for a faculty or staff advisor. So if we go back down here, the last section I want to show you is this officer section. So we're going to click on resources. And this will show you all the different resources that are available to our officers of our organizations. And we have different tutorials, different recruitment and marketing materials, as well as for Money Matters for our treasurers. But an important section that you should definitely look at going through this new org process are our policies. And so it's really important to be updated and understand what our student org policies are. So that way, you know, throughout this approval process, throughout your time as a registered org, you know what you are allowed to do as an organization at UNT. So definitely check out the student organizations policy as well as all our other policies that are listed on their website, because it'll be really important to make sure that you understand those, all your officers and members understand what you are and aren't able to do as an organization. So the last thing that I want to show you on our website is OrgSync. So OrgSync is going to be a database for all of our registered student orgs, all events, newsletters, anything that goes on in the student org world can be accessed through OrgSync. So you'll log into OrgSync and you'll just log in with your EUID information and password. And then it'll take you to the homepage. So this is what the homepage looks like. You have different tabs up here, such as home, events, organizations, news, and forms. So on here, if you are a member of any orgs, or whenever we hand that profile over to you, if your org gets approved, you'll see all your different memberships and organizations that you're a part of. As I mentioned earlier, you'll see these events that are posted on our website. So that calendar you can access here as well. So any current events that are going on, like I said, through our office, such as Professional Picture Day, or any other events that are going on through our organizations. So the first thing that I want to show you is this Manage tab over here. So if you click on those little tiles, you'll see Manage. You'll click on that, and this is going to be where you'll manage your organization. So I'll go ahead and show you an organization that I have manage access to and show you what the different options you have. So roster, this is going to be where you update your officers. And so when you're assigning president, vice president, these will all be things that you do through the registration process, but you can also manage your members, and any sort of roster changes that need to be made can be done through here. About is going to be where you have your mission and vision, any important documents that people want to see. This will be the main thing that people see when they access your org's profile in OrgSync. If you have events going on, you'll have those here. News, if your organization wants to do a newsletter or you have an update, anything like that. News can be where you reach all that information out to your current members. Any important documents that you want to hold, so constitution and bylaws, any sort of important flyers, all documents can be stored here in your org's profile through OrgSync. So that can be another really great resource to utilize through transition periods or any important information that you think future officers a couple years down the road may want to access. Forms, if you're going to have membership applications or you're going to have some sort of form that you want your members to fill out, another great central location to have that information. And then elections is another really great tool to utilize instead of using some third party. All of that information can be kept here. Ballots are sent anonymously, so members don't have to include their information. And so this can be another great resource to utilize when selecting officers or voting for new officers for the new school year. So if you go back over here to the right-hand side and click on the initial tile, you'll click on account. And another really, really important thing about OrgSync is making sure you have your email address updated. So as an OrgSync profile, your campus email address will already be uploaded and be set as your preferred email address. However, if you do not check your UNT email or your my.unt email, definitely go ahead and update your preferred email address. So if that's a Gmail, a Yahoo, AOL, whatever that may be, make sure you're updating your preferred email address if it's not your campus email, because all important information, especially as an officer, and especially as a primary officer for an organization, whenever event applications are submitted or any sort of approval is required, that reminder or notification information will be sent to the email address that is set as your preferred email address. So we want to make sure you're getting that information and that you're getting those updates because some of that stuff is time sensitive. So we want to make sure that you're getting all the information correctly and are able to access that. So we're going to go back to the home page. And we're going to actually go to organizations. So as a new org, one of the requirements to create a new org and going through the approval process is to make sure that there are no duplicate orgs. So if you have an organization Maybe you're trying to create a book club, but you want to make sure that there's no other book clubs currently registered at UNT. You can go here and you can search all different types of organizations. And what we recommend doing is searching different words that may be associated with your certain organization. So if you're starting to create a book club, maybe search reading, literature, book, of course, searching different words that you think may be describing a book club that maybe someone else used. You can also select categories as well. So if you wanted to create a business organization, looking to see what business organizations already exist and making sure that your mission and vision and purpose of your organization isn't similar to an org that already exists. So I highly recommend doing so if you haven't already, making sure that there are no other currently registered orgs at UNT that have a similar mission, vision, or purpose. If they are similar, I would definitely go ahead and reach out to those orgs or organization that seem similar and see if you can find any sort of distinction between them, because that will be a question that we'll ask you when we meet with you, is how does your org differ from orgs that are already registered at UNT? So we're going to go to this events tab. Like I said, you have, once as a registered org, you have the opportunity to submit event applications, and this will be how you book rooms, as well as how you get your events posted on OrgSync. So whenever you're able to submit those event applications and they get approved, they will show up here. So any students that are interested in joining an organization will come here and they can see that there's different resource meetings or there's chapter meetings for your organization. They can come here, and it's a great way to get new membership as well. Another tab is news. So like I said, if you want to post any information for your members or all UNT students to be able to access, this is a great platform to use. You can actually access our Student Org Chronicles newsletter that comes from our office for officers with important information and updates and resources that are available to you. So you can actually access that newsletter here, as well as any other important information, updates that organizations and the Student Activity Center may be having. And the last thing that I want to show you in OrgSync are forms. So forms are going to be a great place for you to do a number of things, such as involvement advising. So maybe you have members that are looking to get more involved, or maybe you as yourself are looking to get more involved. Involvement advising, you can find that form here. Student organization involvement bear sign up is going to be here. So student activities, we host involvement bears. And so if you wanted an opportunity to table for your organization, you can do that here. And the form that I want to show you is the form that you will actually be completing as a new organization if you haven't already completed it. So if you just search approval, it'll be this first form that pops up. So the new student organization approval request. This will be the form that you need to complete and submit to us to set up a meeting with us to talk about the new org process and get some more information and start moving along through that approval process. So like I said, if you haven't already started this form, this is going to be how you access it through OrgSync, and this is what that form is titled. All right, so now that we've kind of walked through how to access orientation and the student activities website, as well as OrgSync, we're going to quickly talk on org qualifications. So these are what every returning registered org needs to qualify for, as well as new orgs. So you must maintain at least 8 members, all of whom need to be UNT students. So when you're going through this approval process, you will need to upload an Excel document that has all your members or your current members, as well as their EU IDs, because we will be checking to make sure that they are currently enrolled students. So making sure that you have those 8 members and maintaining at least 8 members throughout your organization's lifetime at UNT, as well as at least 2 eligible officers and a full-time faculty or staff advisor. So some possible reasons that your org approval may be denied is if it fails to comply with UNT policy, student code of conduct, or any other applicable UNT policies. So I highly recommend going and looking at that policies webpage to read through those and make sure that you comply with those with your organization and that you continue to comply with those throughout your organization's lifetime. If it creates a substantial disruption on campus and it prevents organizational activity that itself is illegal under state or federal law. And like I said a little earlier, if it is a duplicate of the mission or purpose of an existing registered student org, that could be a reason for denying your new org. So it's really important that you go and search to see if there are any similar missions or visions or organizations that already exist at UNT. And finally, if it's set up that such any individual benefits monetarily from its existence. So the new org process, I know we kind of touched briefly on some components that you'll need, but I want to walk through the step-by-step process. So like I said, orientation will be a requirement of this process. I already showed you how to access that new org inquiry form, and that will definitely be vital. That'll be the first step that you need to be completed to be able to move forward so we can reach out to you and set up a meeting to talk to you about your organization. So once you've submitted that form, you will hear from me and I will set up a meeting with you to meet with myself and some members of our org team to talk to you about your new org, ask you some questions, get a better idea of what it is you want to do, your mission, your vision. And then you are going to, if you do get approved after that meeting, you will be submitting registration. And that will definitely be something that we touch on when we're meeting with you. It's important to note that we do have a lot of organizations, new orgs going through this approval process. So time can really vary between 2 to 4 weeks, contingent upon when you complete these different components, as well as how many new orgs we're meeting with. We're currently meeting with about 8 to 10 new orgs every week. So it's a lot of meetings that we're having to go through, a lot of conversations that we're having to have about approving them or not. So definitely bear with us if it does take a little bit longer. This can be a lengthy process because there are a lot of extra components. Definitely bear with us, but definitely make sure that you have the components required so that it can go as smoothly as possible. So information that we need before submitting, like I mentioned, you do need a number of active members. So those 8 members, you will be required to upload those to the form. You also need a UNT advisor, which includes their name, department, phone number if they have one, and email. This will be another section in that approval form that you'll need to complete. And then a copy of the organization's constitution with the updated verbatim clauses and policy numbers. So you won't need this component to complete the approval form, but this will be something that we'll touch on in meeting with the org team, as well as something that will be required for registration. So it's definitely vital to kind of start working on that now. And I can show you here shortly how to look at a sample constitution that we have and what those verbatim clauses and policy numbers look like and how to include those. So new org framework. As a new organization, you probably have some idea of what you want to do, who you want to serve, and why you want this new org to exist. But we want to help you think about some more critical aspects and pieces that may be helpful, especially when meeting with us, as well as to consider when going through this approval process. So definitely start brainstorming. So if you know you want to start a book club, that's great. But we want you to think a little bit more about how you're going to support your organization. Who is going to be a part of this? Are you going to focus on all UNT students? Are you going to focus on a certain demographic? Who is going to be involved? How many officers are you going to have? Some of those logistical pieces about the people, the officers, and the membership body that are going to make up your organization, as well as when. Important things about when events are going to be, when you're going to have meetings, the frequency of this organization. Where, like I mentioned, when you become a registered org, you can submit event applications, but you can consider doing virtual events if you want to have a completely virtual sort of organization that only meets via Zoom. Or are you going to have hybrid events, or is everything going to be in person? Where are you going to meet? Are you planning to meet off campus, on campus? Are you going to be booking spaces with us? And how are you going to manage this organization? Like I said, it's important to consider who your officers are. How are they going to manage it? How many positions are you going to have? Are you going to have traditional positions? Are you going to have maybe a social media chair, a risk management chair, different things of how you're going to run that organization, as well as important things such as funding. How are you going to fund the organization in these events? Are you going to have fundraising events? Are you going to have sponsors? Different components like that, as well as your what and why, are going to be really, really important, and are going to be some questions that we'll ask you when we meet with you. But what is the purpose of this organization? Is it a social org? Is it academic, professional org, cultural? Why and what is the purpose of your organization? So these are just some more vital pieces to think about that will help you create that mission and vision, create that constitution, as well as connect with new members and start recruiting officers if you need more, and those new members. So constitution. So I'll go ahead and show you how to access a sample constitution on our website. All right, so if you go ahead and head back to our studentactivities.unt.edu/org's homepage, you're going to go to the Manage Your Organization, and you're going to click on Registration again. And you will scroll down and click on Current Organization Registration. And you'll see here under Preparing for Registration at this last tab, there will be a sample constitution. You can click on that. All right, so that should download you a sample constitution and it'll pull up as a Word document. And as you can see here, it's a little bit of a long document, but this is a really great foundation. If you don't have a constitution already started or you need somewhere to start, this will give you a really great platform to build from. And so the important thing to note, as I mentioned earlier, are those verbatim clauses and policy numbers that will be required. So anything that is in red text will need to be included in your constitution. This will be something that we check for when you're going through the registration process. So definitely make sure that you keep these red text in your constitution, but everything else, definitely tailor towards what your organization needs. So for officers, titles and duties, so you don't have to have those traditional president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. If you have different officer positions, like I said, as a risk management chair, social media chair, maybe a communications chair, definitely include those and update that in your constitution. The different responsibilities and duties may be different than what we have provided here. Like I said, this is just a loose base for you to build your constitution off of. It's also really important that, like I said, you tailor it to what your organization needs. So some organizations, maybe their election process is a little bit different than what you typically think. Are you going to have members vote on changes, or is it just going to be officers? So different things that you need. If someone leaves a position, how are you going to fill that position? Is someone going to be promoted, or are you going to vote a new officer in? So definitely read through this carefully and figure out what you want for your organization, what's going to be required for your members, as well as what's going to be required for your officers. One thing that we do want to just make you aware of is if you are having requirements for membership or your members to maintain membership, and if you select GPA requirement as one of those requirements for your members, definitely just being aware that that may be some information that your members have to self-disclose because you as students are unable to access that information yourself. So just being realistic and mindful about what your requirements are and how you are going to maintain those requirements for your members throughout your constitution. And we'll talk a little bit more about different ways you can utilize your constitution and things to include. So now that you have that sample constitution and you know what mandatory clauses to keep in there, some other things that could be beneficial to include in your constitution is the foundation of an organization. So as a new org, it may be kind of cool and fun to include that this organization was founded, fall 2020. So that 10 years down the road, organizations are able to say, oh, our org has been at UNT for 10 years, 15 years, however long it may be. Important history, so it could be the founding members, the first officers, maybe the first membership body that was part of this organization, as well as different dates and events that may be important. So this could be a really great area to include important information that may be kind of cool for future officers to utilize. The Constitution is a great place to include that, as well as articulating the purpose and procedures of the student organization. Like I said, how you're going to elect officers and what the officer positions are, as well as the advisor role. Every advisor can serve in a different capacity for different organizations. So really outlining what you want from your advisor and what your expectations are for them and what their role with your organization will be is an important piece to include in your Constitution. And as I mentioned, that membership criteria and alum status, this will be another great place for when members are reading the Constitution, they know what's required of them and what their membership criteria is. So advisors, I know I already showed you how to contact us and reach out to our team if you are still looking for an advisor, but being really intentional about that selection process and having a conversation about what their responsibilities are going to look like and what role they want to play with the organization will be really vital in securing that advisor. Communication, how often are you going to communicate with your advisor? It's definitely important to keep your advisor in the loop because there may be instances where we're reaching out to the advisor about something that's going on with your organization, and we want to make sure that they're updated and they know what's going on. So if you have an event that's planned and we're trying to get in contact with one of the officers and no one's responding, we'll reach out to the advisor. And if they don't know what's going on with that event, we want to make sure that they're kept in the loop and that they're updated on what's going on with your organization. And like I said, having that expectation conversation early on, and if they're going to be attending org meetings and events, so are they going to attend one meeting a semester? Are they going to be even attending the meetings? What's going to be required of them? Are you going to set up separate meetings with your advisors to keep them updated? Again, just those expectations and responsibilities of what role your advisor is going to play in your organization. So officers, again, so that selection process, it's really important to be intentional about who you're selecting as your officers, especially when creating a new organization, because everyone's going to be a little bit lost and everyone's going to be going through the same boat about what it's going to be like to serve as an officer for a new org. Having a conversation about what those responsibilities and expectations are going to look like. If you're going to have your vice president submit event applications, or if you're going to have your president submit those. Different conversations about what the roles and responsibilities for each of the officer positions is going to be really vital. And again, having that in the Constitution will definitely help future officers down the line, as well as help your current officer body to have something to refer back to. Communication is going to be super, super vital as an officer for an organization. I know having a central communication platform or a way to communicate with my officers is really important. If there are any last minute changes or any updates that I need to share with my fellow officers, being able to communicate them is really vital. And we do have our officer meetings. So that's definitely a conversation you can have with your officers if you want to meet with them, how often, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever that may be, as well as different meetings that you want to have with them. So things to keep track of for transitioning. As a new org, obviously all of this information is going to be brand new to you, but when you hand over your organization to the next officer executive board, it'll be really important to give them a lot of really helpful information and a strong platform to work off of. So notes on registration process and org formation. So if there's anything that you noted as an officer or anything important that you think new officers should know about the registration process, we really vital to write down, like such as when registration opens, different requirements for registration. It will be really important to help them through that process. Constitution and outline for future ideas to implement. So definitely keeping that constitution updated if an officer position changes or you change something about how you want to elect new officers or make decisions as an organization. Definitely keeping the constitution updated, as well as including a section for future ideas to implement. So maybe there was something that you wanted to do or something you wanted to change about something that your organization did that year. Definitely giving future ideas for new officers to be able to implement and better improve your org. Including a timeline for outgoing and incoming officers with SMART goals. So if you want to transition your officers in April, that way they have more time to transition before the current officers leave, graduate, or continue on into their next year of school, having an idea of when that transition is going to happen. Any important meeting notes or minutes will be really, really important. So the things that you talk about as a officer body or as a membership body. And then creating a checklist for incoming and outgoing officers. So whether or not that's setting up a transition meeting with each of the current and new officers to talk about roles and responsibilities, if there are certain things you need to hand over or processes and procedures that you want to walk through, create a checklist of things to complete before you as a current officer leave the organization. Something that I really utilize, and I'm super thankful that my organization does this, is creating a transition binder for each of the positions with important documents pertaining to officer responsibilities, different important things that you may need. And as you'll see lower on this list, social media, passwords, and processes. This is something that was really important in our transition binder, is how to access our organization email address and our different social media platforms so that the new officers are able to access those, bank account information, if there are any important numbers, or if you have checks that your organization uses. Creating a transition binder is a central location of where to keep those, and having that contact information. So contact information of your advisor, if they're going to continue serving as an advisor for your organization, having that contact information for new officers to use. Any staff or services utilized for events and programs. So maybe you created a really great relationship with a certain vendor or a certain company, and you want your organization to use them in the future. Giving them that contact information will be super helpful, as well as membership information. So it's really important to keep your membership and your members' information updated. So if there's any contact information and really utilizing that roster function in OrgSync will be another important aspect for having a smooth transition. So recruitment. So there are some things that you can do to recruit members for your organization as a new org. So pre-registration, so before you get approved and registered, different things that you can do is one, ask for permission to announce in class. So maybe you're in a class and you think some of your fellow students may be interested in joining your org. You can definitely ask your professor and see if you can take some time at the beginning of class or after class to make an announcement about your new org, as well as sharing with another organization. So maybe you know an organization that maybe some members may be interested in joining your org, or maybe you're a part of a different organization and you want to recruit some new members. You can definitely reach out to them and see if you can make an announcement at one of their meetings or have those officers share information about your new org. You can also post on open bulletin boards. If you have social media accounts, you can reach out to other orgs and have them share your social media posts, utilizing different UNT group pages and hashtags. And as I mentioned earlier, I showed you how to access that involvement fair sign-up form on OrgSync. But as a new org, you are actually able to table at our involvement fairs. So definitely check out to see when our next involvement fair is and sign up so that you're able to recruit new members. But once you've been registration, you are able to utilize all the different resources that Student Activities offers, such as signing up for tabling at our different events. So Mean Green Fling, Mean Green Spring Fling. So all those different events that we host are great opportunities for you to table, as well as social media. So once you become a registered org, we will start sharing your social media posts to further get the word out about your organization. So that is all I have for you today about our new org process. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Student Activities. We are located in Union 345, but you can also see our phone number there. Our website, like I mentioned, that studentactivities.unt.edu/orgs is going to be a really, really great resource for you to utilize throughout this new org process. And even if you do become approved and become a registered organization, this will be a great place for you to refer back to a lot of information. And then definitely follow us on social media. We have a lot of really great events coming out of our office and important updates about deadlines and events and news. So definitely follow us. But like I said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we look forward to meeting with you.